four-time Miss Olympia Jay Cutler. Welcome to my channel, Jay Cutler TV, and make sure to stay in tune with the newest and updated videos. Subscribe below, guys. Thank you so much for following along.
Maximum dosages never to be exceeded. He wants to know. I just make a quick comment here. You're looking for levels to be achieved with dosages, right? And again, so how you metabolize them, it will change. You know, are you using 200 a week of testosterone or 300 a week?
Right.
You know, and also I have to add, you know, there's some substances here which are considered contraband in a lot of countries. So, you know, what's the point of going through those? Although I realize, you know, people still want to know the answer. And also one last thing, with or without a base of testosterone. Are you talking about doing Masteron by itself or in conjunction with testosterone? Most practitioners, if anyone in the US anyway, in the United States, if they're going to prescribe something anabolic, it's usually on top of a base of your TRT, because you're not using anabolic steroids as a base for anything. There's too many negative side effects. The main thing is, you know, your lipid profile is going to change. So your HDL is going to go down and your LDL is going to go up. So no one does that as your replacement therapy per se, as a male certainly. There are females who, for example, have had estrogen-sensitive cancers where that's a godsend, because as you know, these DHT derivative hormones like Anavar won't convert to estrogen, so they can get the benefits of testosterone without and oftentimes they're wasted because of the cancer. So again, it's a godsend for them. But for the most part, we don't use them alone. So okay, he writes testosterone. Well, I just said 200 300 milligrams a week could be, you know, growth hormone 2 to 4 IUs could be. Trenbolone is not legal in this country. You know, Phenoject in other countries maybe
Right.
so, but all I can tell you is with the bodybuilders that I run across, and this could be a super physiologic dose, I've heard anywhere from for the acetate version 100 to 150 every other day. Is that jive with what you hear?
I've heard every day.
That much?
Yeah.
Well, again, so I would be, I guess, quoting the lower end, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And an anthate, which is a longer, it's an ester, so it's not a suspension. It's going to last longer. 200 milligrams a week?
Oh boy.
More than that would be
More than that.
Okay. Well, I don't think you need that much. I mean, I've seen guys win major shows on a lot less than that back in the day. You know, 30 years ago. 30 milligrams of Anavar won Mr. Florida one year, to my knowledge. Anyway, Anavar, you know, that's something that is legal in this country, not considered contraband. A replacement dose is considered, you know, as high as 40 milligrams. And people forget, and we've gone over this before about, you know, changing the numbers and thinking, you know, well, 50 milligrams of this is the same as 50 milligrams of that. It's because it's 50 milligrams.
Right.
Anavar is a pretty powerful anabolic steroid. So he writes Preambolone, 100 milligrams a week.
A week?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Maybe you have to divide that up because it's so short acting, but yeah, I mean, you're asking my medical opinion. I know if it doesn't jive with the body.
But this is the thing, though. This is why I was kind of glad when I saw this question, because in the bodybuilding world, and you've been treating a lot of these guys. I don't know if you can't give any names and stuff, but it's not uncommon for people to take, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 milligram a week of tests and things like that.
I'm not shy about telling you that it's nuts to do that, though.
It's well, that's why I want people to see this and realize there's more harm than good that can be coming from doing something like that. It's like, what would be the point? I see so many
negative side effects. Like I remember one guy was having trouble sleeping. You're taking 2 grams of X. You think that might be the reason why? I mean, you know, testosterone, it's not caffeine, but it gets you revved up. And
right.
Of course, yeah, you might be sitting there counting ceiling tiles because you're on too much stuff.
Wow.
And then how are you going to grow? And so what do? Oh, I can't grow. I must need more anabolic. And I'm definitely not, you know me, I'm not.
That's how they think, though.
Libertarian. I'm not throwing barbs or anything.
No.
I'm just trying to appeal to, just very practically, not even common sense, because what does that mean? But just think about it, you know. you're gonna have to find the right amount of, what do they say, the gear that works for you, as always. But you get above a certain level, and then you're taking drugs for the drugs, the side effects from the drugs, all that stuff, and you're fighting an uphill battle. In my opinion, it's just I'm just one guy, but in my experience, I've seen it. I see guys come in here and they tell me all the stuff they're taking. Why can't I grow? And this is, you might say this is secondary. Well, they're doing everything right. They bring their water, they bring their food. They can't grow. Yeah, they're working 3 jobs and only getting 5 hours of sleep. That's a major problem.
Wow.
If you're taking so much that you can't sleep, whether it's because you're working, you're stressed, or you're just taking too much gear, then you're going to have trouble growing because you're not sleeping. So where's the sense in that? Anyway, just my opinion. Again, I come from a different era where the guys I knew that were bodybuilders were taking much, much less. And I know current bodybuilders, by the way, who are very successful, partly because they chose their parents well and they have the right body type that makes it easier. They're very mesomorphic. Or taking 600 milligrams of testosterone.
Wow. And see, I'm glad we talk about that.
Top 10. And I, on my daughter's, well-being, I'm telling you.
I'm glad you say that.
Clear top 10.
Because I think a lot of people, especially the up-and-comers and the amateur people that are trying to make it to the pros and to become successful, they always imagine, these pros will be on so much gear. I got to up the dosage. I'm hearing growth hormone, people taking, up to 16 IUs, a whole entire bottle per day.
18 IUs.
18
and
per
I'm not
day.
going to name names, but you know who they are because you see them on the internet touting all this stuff. And they don't look right, do they? They don't name names.
No.
You can say, hey, there's something wrong with that person taking that much, and that should be a dead giveaway. Remember this. This is what I smile about often, because people come in and say, well, here's a piece of paper. Look, I know you don't deal with this, or you can't prescribe this kind of stuff, but can I just show you what this guy recommended? Think about this. The guy who came up with the phrase is blast and cruise, right? You do a lot of anabolic steroids and then stop doing them. As though that, I will say, I have to admit, medically speaking, it's the chronicity of use that gives people a hard time, not so much the dose at one time. That's true. But what I'm getting at is the same guy who's telling you to take this, this, and this, and this happens to be who? The same guy who's selling them to you.
Right.
You think there's a conflict of interest there?
Yeah.
Think about it, man. So, I've seen, like he asked about, I mentioned earlier, Masteron. Growing up, I didn't even know what Masteron was. I'm 55, so I should, disclaim that. And then all of a sudden, for the last 5 or 6 years, that's all I hear about. Why? Is it a better drug? It's a DHT derivative. It's just like, anabolic and that effect.
It's supposed to make, if you hear, certain people on the internet, they're supposed to make you drier. It's supposed to dry you out so it's kind of like a trend.
Cholesterol.
Yeah.
Cholesterol does. It's for, if you look at the medical literature, it's for angioedema. So why is that any better? I think it's because that's what's available on that market.
Man.
It's not legal.
It's hard to get though. It's not that easy.
For a while, it's all I heard from my patients is, I've been recommended this by this guy.
Because they consider the exotic.
Well,
drug.
Anyway, my hallucination was it was because that's what's available, and then it's too coincidental that all of a sudden and then there was
it is expensive.
A short acting decadroblin that all of a sudden NPP that became popular. It's like, well, they must have had a boatload of it get through customs, or not through customs, but unloaded somewhere on a distant beach. I don't know. And again, I don't mean to make fun. I just want to this is about getting it right and the medicine of it. So. That's all I can think of personally, and guys tell me differently, why this stuff suddenly becomes more popular. It's not a medical reason, in other words. It's got to be because of something else. And why people have this idea, again, of 3 or 4 grams a week is because it's got to be because people, it's not because that's what's working for people. It may be working for people, but how do you know, 1/10 that wouldn't work? I can tell you it does because I've seen it, and medically it makes sense. There's only so many receptors, et cetera. You've heard all that. But I think it's blown up to what it has been, what it has become, because again, there's a conflict of interest.
It's a business. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a business.
One other thing, I'll leave it all alone. Real quickly, halotestin. It is actually legal. Last I checked in this country, I don't know anybody in their right mind who would prescribe halotestin. It is so bad for the liver, and there's so many negative side effects that why would you even want to touch that? Again, that's a personal thing, but really, there's so many other they're all anabolic steroids. Let's not forget. Halotestin is just too risky. I wouldn't touch it. Insulin's another one. I know a lot of guys do it. You can die. You can die from using insulin improperly. You know, how are you going to look dead? I mean, that one's just it just doesn't make sense to me. It's too risky. When I say it doesn't make sense, I know people have their reasons for it, but you know, my personal opinion. This is my opinion. It's all I'm giving out here. Is why take the chance? You know, even doctors can screw that one up. You know, when I was in service, I know of one diabetic ketoacidosis case. The lady unfortunately died, and I think it was because you know, things weren't managed properly. It was just, you know, they're difficult cases. Insulin can go wrong. Anyway, the last one I want to mention. We asked Winstrol. That's kind of like Anabar. I'd say 20 to 30 milligrams would be a replacement dose. But Clenbuterol. This is one of my favorites. I'll stop here. Clenbuterol. The idea that Clenbuterol could ever be anabolic is so physiologically impossible, it is laughable. And yet you've heard forever. I've heard since I was a kid, Clenbuterol is the perfect one. It gets you cut up, and it also it's anabolic. I've done the research. I think there was one study, which was a totally garbage study, that alluded to the fact that it might be anabolic. I mean, it's just such a stretch. It's a beta agonist. It's for opening up, relaxing the smooth muscle of the bronchial passages so you can breathe better. Just like albuterol, you know, the inhaler that people have for asthma. It's absolutely 100% catabolic. Take it and see if you can. You can take oral Clenbuterol or albuterol and tell me you don't feel like you're burning energy, right? How it might help you gain muscle mass indirectly is because it opens up the airway, gives you a little energy, and you can train harder. You know, but that's it. So that one is I'll stand toe to toe with anybody and defend those statements. Clenbuterol, the physiology just doesn't match. There's no way you're going to tell me that's anabolic. By the way, it's also considered contraband. It's illegal in this country. So if you want the effect of Clenbuterol, whatever you think that might be. But you know, you can use albuterol because it's legal, and you can get it, you know, if it's appropriate, from a legitimate source here in the United States. And if you need it, you know, in other words, you know, don't take the risk with Clenbuterol and pay a ridiculous amount of money thinking you're getting something you're not. You know.
Oh wow, those are a lot of misconception in this world, in bodybuilding world. A lot.
Still, people think Clenbuterol makes it big.
Clan T3. All that stuff, like.
Well, he didn't ask about T3, but we talked about T3 before, right?
We did, and the body would just readjust, like you said, unless you take more than your body would adjust for. That's right. You're overdosing on it, and it'd be like this. To this day, people still. That's like, you know.
Well, when you're doing 16 things at a time, how do you know what works?
I know.
Do you know how many permutations you can get of 16? You know, combinations of things, interreactions with 16. Just think of how many you can get with just 3 different things.
Right.
You know, A, B, A, C, B, A. You know, different versions.
Yeah.
So and I say it to patients all the time, because you know, people want things yesterday. Well, you know, what can I take? Well, should I start taking metformin when I start my TRT? These are people who have no pre-diabetes or anything like that. And maybe it's a bad example because you know, it's not going to hurt you. But why don't we see what happens when you change one thing at a time?
Yeah. You
know, I always tell them, you know, I do my best Arnold imitation. It is there if I need it. You know, it's there. You can make a phone call after you get up and running with 3 months of TRT. See how you feel. See how you do. See if you can. You know, what if your blood sugars? You know, your hemoglobin A1C is 4.6. Is metformin really going to do that much for you? Probably not. And your fasting insulin's below 5. I mean, not going to happen. It's not with the juicing with the squeeze. But you'll see what the effect of the testosterone replacement was without any other interference, any confounding factors. And then you go, okay, now I'll add metformin. Oh, well, how's that make me feel? How's that make me look? How's my performance? How's my function, etc.? That makes more sense, right? Yeah, and then you can tease out what's doing what.
People are impatient.
Even then, though, remember, but I'm adding metformin to a body that has testosterone, not one that doesn't. If I started with testosterone, I might get totally different results.
Right.
From the metformin alone than if I had testosterone and metformin. So you can see how it gets really confounding to shotgun it, I call it, with 16 things at once.
Yeah.
But that leads to a lot of the confusion, because it's like to say this, the classic, and then I'll shut up. You know, the guy who has big biceps in the gym. I think this is a borrowed analogy too. I've heard this before. He's got huge biceps, and he's doing like throwing the weight, never fully extending, all that kind of stuff. But he's got huge biceps. All of a sudden, everyone in the gym is doing that.
That's right.
the guy has genetically fantastic biceps. He chose his parents well.
That's right.
And imagine if he did it the right way, but this is what we do. We go, well, okay, that guy won Mr. Olympia because he did those 16 things. Well, I'm going to do it too.
That's right. That's exactly it.
That's what happens.
When they talked about the growth hormone, just to revisit real quick, in your opinion, what would you say the highest should be on a daily basis, not to go above for no side effects?
That one's kind of easy. I wouldn't go above 6 IUs because the studies show.
I think I remember you saying that.
That you can get away with that. We don't have any that say you can get away with 7. And when I say get away with it, I think maybe you'll find a year, but I'm sure you'll find 6 months because I've seen 6 months.
Nice.
That doesn't mean a year though. What if a year something goes wrong? I mean, there's like with blood sugar, for example. Growth hormone will raise your blood sugar. We're talking about metformin and blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it's pretty significant. You go, whoa, that's pre-diabetic blood sugar. And then it calms down again and resets itself to something normal. How do we know that a year from now, some other strange occurrence, where your blood sugar goes awry doesn't occur? Anyway, I think as I said earlier, I don't know what the dose is of growth hormone, but I think the number we're trying to approximate that makes the most sense for quality of life being a primary import, for anti-aging purposes. I mean, again, who cares if you live to 300 if you're in ICU, right?
Right.
So quality of life without causing further damage. Although I know, for example, Dr. Sam Epstein out of Chicago, we the first to just condemn any use of growth hormone. He thinks it's, and he's got his reasons. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I definitely would argue with him.
Yeah.
But I very much respect Dr. Epstein. He'll be the first one to tell you don't ever take it because it's going to cause cancer. So there's all kinds of opinions, but we have a lot of examples of people that take a more normal physiologic dose, something that never was super physiologic, something you had when you were 20. Again, doesn't mean you're perfectly safe, because maybe you're only meant to have it to that point when you're 20.
Right.
I know I keep giving qualifications to my answer, but you got to. I'm not Merle, I don't have the answer.
Right.
We're going on our best estimates right now.
Right.
So you're asking me an opinion. I would say, somewhere between 2 to 4 IUs of growth hormone, such that whatever that dose in between there might be would approximate an IGF-1 of 300 to 350.
Nice.
That, I think you're pretty safe in my experience, and per the literature, if you look around, you'll see higher dosages than that, and people aren't, whether it's a 6 months or a year or even 2-year study, people aren't coming back with problems. I'm
glad you said that, because this is the problem with bodybuilding. I know you always go by results and blood tests and all that stuff, but most people who are bodybuilders, they will not do the blood test. And this is why we're talking about this right now, because a lot of times people will do 12 or 18 IUGs because the next guy is doing it, not knowing that over 6, it's dumb to do that. So I think this is important, what we're talking about right now, because they may not go take the blood test because they don't even care. They're not doing it for being healthy or for quality of life. They're doing it for cosmetic reason. So
I think it's part of why we're doing this, is trying to spread the word. I think there's a lot of fear to even approach a doctor because of the old, paternalistic way we treated doctors. That they're the gods, and I speak, like the wizard behind the Wizard of Oz, and you do. If you don't, you displease me, and you won't get any help from me, or something like that. I think that's almost long gone. But you can get labs without using a doctor these days. There's plenty of online services that are supported by the major companies, I believe,
nice,
where you can get accurate labs and do it yourself if you have to. I don't mean do it yourself. I mean, you can get the numbers at least.
Yourself,
based on what I know, this isn't crazy. I still think that, and this is part of the integration, and again, part of why we're doing this, go to the doctor. And if you don't find the right one, it's like a lawyer, find another one to help you. And sooner or later, we'll all get it together here.
Good.
And we need the same, as a doctor, I say we need the same relationship to glean information too, because as I joke all the time, this kind of stuff is not taught in medical school either. Not to make excuses, but you don't have guys being wheeled into the emergency room with low T, and that's where we get trained as doctors.
Yeah.
So, and in the family practice setting, most of the people there just want to get their shoulder fixed so they can go back and work the 3 jobs they're working to support 5 kids. What do they care about low T as far as they know?
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of training going on. So, so there's a give and take in learning, and just have to perpetuate the information both ways.
That's good. Yeah. Thanks so much, Doc.
Sure.